To get started with your first D&D character, you need to pick a race. A race is the species of your character. It will determine their specific abilities and traits and other such things. They can be divided into two separate categories. The common races, which are the ones you'll find around in the world of D&D, and then the uncommon ones, which is kind of a surprise to see anywhere. The common races include dwarves, elves, humans, and halflings, and then uncommon races, which include dragonborns, gnomes, half-orcs, and tieflings. Once you've picked a race, some races will have you pick a subrace. Subraces have different abilities from the original, and I'll just use elves for this example. They have three subraces. They have high elves, wood elves, and drow. Though I wouldn't recommend drow to a new player because they don't fight well in sunlight. Each subrace has its own unique abilities and traits. Going back to the elves, wood elves have the ability to camouflage themselves in plain sight if given enough time, and they're very difficult to sneak up on. High elves get an additional language and a spell. Drow get superior dark vision and very good stealth magic, but to balance that out, they don't fight well in direct sunlight, and you're in sunlight a lot of the time. Once you've picked your race, then you go over to what, in my opinion, is the most important decision you can make when creating a character. It's your class. Your class is kind of going to determine which direction your character follows or what their role will be in the party. There are martial classes, ones who fight with a sword or some other form of weaponry, which are the fighter, the rogue, the monk, and the barbarian. Caster classes, which are ones that use spells, are the wizard, bard, sorcerer, warlock, cleric, and druid. And then finally, half-casters, which take a little bit from both of those and combine them into a martial class with some spells, are the paladin and the ranger. If you're a new player, then I would avoid full spellcasting classes because it's kind of overwhelming to figure out what all the spells are, learn how they use, and then learn the spell mechanics. Instead, I would recommend playing a martial class such as the barbarian or fighter, or if you think that you can handle it, then try a paladin or a ranger. So now that you've picked a race and class, you need to give your character a backstory. A backstory is the reason why your character's out adventuring instead of working on a farm. Your race and class should influence your backstory. For example, if you're a orc barbarian, you could be someone who came down from the mountains to fight for their tribe. Or you could be a college dropout, a wizard who decided college wasn't for him and he's adventuring to try and keep his parents from figuring out about it. There's pretty much any way you can take this. As long as you have one, it helps the DM a bunch to get material for the campaign. Now that you have your backstory, it's time to determine your ability scores. This determines what your character is good at. There are 6 of them: strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. Strength is the character's ability to hit things hard with a sword, axe, and any other melee weapon, and to perform feats of athleticism such as running for a long time or lifting up a boulder. Dexterity is your character's ability to dodge if they're wearing light armor, or their ability to use range or finesse weapons such as a rapier, a longbow, a crossbow, or a dagger. And constitution is one of the most important stats in my opinion, as it's your character's health. The higher your constitution, the higher the character's health is, and the better they'll be able to resist stuff such as poison or diseases or any other sickness that comes to your character. Next is intelligence. Intelligence is the spellcasting stat for wizards. That means the higher your intelligence as a wizard, the more powerful your spells will become and harder to resist. That means as a wizard you should kind of prioritize this stat above all else, besides constitution maybe. Next is wisdom. Wisdom is kind of the application of knowledge, whereas intelligence is just having it. Wisdom is knowing how to use it. Wisdom is also the spellcasting stat for rangers, druids, and clerics. So once again, more powerful spells. If you're one of those 3, prioritize it. Finally is charisma. Charisma is one of my personal favorite stats as it lets you talk to people. You can persuade them to do something for you, intimidate them to scare them away. It's just really fun to use. It's also the spellcasting stat for bards, paladins, warlocks, and sorcerers. Now that you know what all of the ability scores do, it's time to determine what yours will be. In order to do this, you'll take 4 6-sided dice and roll them on the table. You'll select the 3 highest numbers, add them together, and then write that number on a piece of scratch paper to the side. Once you've done that, do it 5 more times, and those are the ability scores you can choose from. Each ability score gives a bonus or a negative depending on what the number is. If it's a 10, then it's a 0. An 8 is -1, 6 is -2, 4 is -3, and then vice versa. A 12 is +1, a 14 is +2, a 16 is +3. If it's something in between, then revert to the lower or higher one depending on if it's positive or negative. After you do this, you then need to allocate the points you just rolled out. You'll put your highest into the stats that you prioritize for your class. If you're playing a fighter or barbarian, then I would recommend putting it the highest into strength and constitution, or any other martial class. If you're playing a spellcasting class, you should prioritize your spellcasting modifier, constitution, and dexterity. And if you're playing a half-caster, strength or dexterity if you're a paladin or a rogue, whatever your spellcasting stat is, and then constitution. Once that's done, you're ready to go. There are a few more little things that you need to follow up on, but you can easily find those in the player's handbook. If you already own it, go to a class that you picked, and it should walk you through finishing up with little details. And if you don't own it, you can find it online by just searching PHB, or Player's Handbook 5e PDF, and then downloading it for free. After that, you'll be ready to play. Hey, thanks for watching. This is my second video. The first one I posted was about the game in general, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, go over and watch that one. I'm a new YouTuber, I'm just trying this thing out, so thank you for watching.